Now, I don't know whether you've seen the video which has come out with Liz Bates, I think, of Sky, interviewing Dominic Cummings. It is, I think, one of the most fascinating pieces of journalism. Frankly, Liz Bates hardly gets a word in, and so to call it an interview is almost absurd. It's a monologue interrupted by the Sky presenter. But Cummings, it's conceited, it's arrogant, it's bewitching. And there were moments while I was watching it where I just felt I want to write a fan letter to this man. And there were other moments where I realized there is something deeply sinister about him, or wrong, or simply mad. He's fond of painting himself as a prophet in a land of fools. From Brexit to Boris, he casts himself as the man with the plan, thwarted not by a failure of vision, but by the blob of incompetence and cowards who surround him. He now claims he won both the referendum and the 2019 election, and he repeats this a number of times. He saw it all coming. He wants no further part in politics, unless, of course, Nigel Farage listens to his advice. That apparently would lead to Prime Minister Farage. This is where the arrogance becomes a form of alchemy, transforming personal failure into historical inevitability, and Cummings becomes the Messiah who promises a second comings. But let's take him at his word, then let's take that word apart. First of all, there are so many fallacies here. Let's start with the fallacy. What should we call it? The fallacy of the single cause. Cummings claims Britain won the referendum because the public wanted change, and he knew what kind. This is the classic post hoc fallacy, presuming that because his campaign followed the national mood, it therefore caused the national mood. But disillusion with Westminster had many parents: financial crashes, Iraq, expenses scandals, austerity, long before Cummings came down from the data mountain with his algorithmic commandments, like some sort of Charlton Heston as Moses. More than that, he reduces complexity to a single problem. The system is broken, so it needs to be smashed. But the proposed solution, Brexit, has solved nothing. Quite the reverse, it has exposed the brittleness of the very institutions that he claimed to rejuvenate. Again and again we get to the issue, let's call it a fallacy, that here is the problem and here is my solution. It's the only solution I'm going to allow you. He presents Westminster as a Potemkin village with puppet ministers performing to scripts authored by faceless bureaucrats. There's sort of Wizard of Oz routine. This is the yes minister theory of government turned into moral panic. And I think Liz Bates did actually mention that yes minister at one point, but you're thinking, this is just simply talking about yes minister. And civil servants are not advisors but usurpers in Cummings' worldview. Yet here lies the central contradiction. If the entire system is rigged, fake, and hopeless is what he says, why does he believe it nearly succeeded? His brief stint in number 10 was not derailed by Whitehall, but by political incoherence, personal hostility, and the self-destructive tendencies of Boris Johnson, whom Cummings helped install, and actually the self-destructive tendencies of Cummings. He laments the fake meetings and the fake ministers, yet he reads all this reads as though he'd prefer rule by unelected technocrats of his own choosing. He praises SAS commanders, data scientists, startup founders, but elects no one. And then constantly is talking about what the electors want. This is not the defence of democracy. This is a techno-meritocratic cosplay, where the people are doing what he thinks is right are the people who have never been elected. They're SAS commanders, they're data scientists, they're startup founders. Then he positions himself as the indispensable man dragged unwillingly like Cincinnatus to number 10 for the good of the nation, then betrayed by lesser men, or at least by the man without a comb. He blames the and that's not me, by the way. He blames, I don't have a comb either. I think Boris followed me. He followed my example, not the other way around. He blames the media, the parties, the courts, the blob, the Boris. And now, of course, the Starmer. They all failed to listen, only he knew the way. Oh, by the way, he also tells us that he had chats with Rishi Sunak. Secret chats. Maybe in dreams. He wouldn't have dream chats with Keir Starmer, because Keir Starmer, as he pointed out, doesn't dream. It's messianic, and it's nonsense. The next moment he's going to be telling us that walks on water that he practices in the sink. Politics is the art of coalition, not conquest, and Cummings talks like a general but governs like a hostage negotiator who's accidentally shot the hostage. When his revolution failed to manifest, he declared the system ungovernable rather than his leadership somehow inadequate. Now he claims with curious excitement that Farage could be Prime Minister. You could be Prime Minister, if only Farage does exactly as he suggests. This from the man who once derided Farage as unelectable. But when one's central conviction is that all other politicians are intellectually dead, even Farage's blunt populism becomes preferable. The absurdity here is breathtaking. Cummings loathes Westminster, refuses to re-enter, but imagines he can remote control a revolution via Substack. He scorns those unwilling to act while declining to act himself. This is not strategy. This is a sulk in search of a saviour. The only person he ought to be aligning with is dead, and that's Edward Heath. Cummings' most serious charge is that the civil service and the judiciary block all reform. He wants them replaced by military types, entrepreneurs and men with spreadsheets. Oh, that's very democratic. But this is a textbook category error. The enemy within. Britain's problems are not merely structural but political. The inability to stop the boats is not due to one human rights lawyer with a fax machine, but to the lack of consensus around how law, sovereignty and compassion should interact. Rewriting laws or scripts won't fix that, nor will outsourcing democratic consent to those with impressive CVs but no public mandate. No, the only person who really has the knowledge is Cummings himself. And now the punchline: he regrets nothing. Not the chaos, not the reputational collapse, not the 17.4 million dreams now curdled into recrimination. He believes Brexit was vindicated by the EU's decline, though his own country, Britain, has stagnated, polarised and shrunk diplomatically. Cummings didn't break the system. He broke trust in it and left a vacuum now filled by nihilism, memes and Nigel Farage's iPhone. Dominic Cummings is not wrong about everything, but he is catastrophically wrong about enough. He identifies genuine dysfunction, then prescribes demolition with no blueprint at all. He sees failure everywhere, all with someone else. He sees failure wherever he looks, except in the mirror. It's time we stop treating him as an oracle and start treating him as what he is, a clever man whose arrogance exceeds his insight, a man who thinks he's playing chess when he's merely kicked over the board. I think Dominic Cummings is one of the most exciting people in politics over the last 10 years. He's also, sadly, one of the most foolish. He should wake up, recognise his responsibility and contribute rather than pontificate from the confines of his kitchen. I should point out he has a lovely cat. Mrs. Slocum would be envious.